All right, unhappy Wednesday, everyone. Coming to you live from the compound here. This is the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. As always, we thank you for joining us tonight from wherever you may be and whatever service you're using to tune in. So go ahead, pull up a chair, turn up the volume, use the company dime if you're still stuck at work, turn up the volume in your car or whatever, and let's try to put an end to this most miserable day 3 of this week's hostage situation and look forward to tomorrow being Friday Eve. Not sure how many people we're going to have jump in the room here, but we got David Califoot in here. Rough one. Yeah, brother. Definitely rough. Lou Mancini, he's here too. Thank you guys for coming on in. I mean, judging by the comments on the posts I put up about the show today, not sure how many people we're going to have show up here. Not sure how many people will comment if they do come in the room. So, and I don't fault anyone for that. It's it's a tough week for sure. I'm trying to keep a smile on my face. A lot for my own well-being, but certainly for some of you as well. And for, I got the little ones out there too. So, back at home tonight, wanted to give the back porch a break. Wanted to give my buddy Mike a break. Now, don't get me wrong. Had we won the Super Bowl, we're probably up there doing the show. Part of the reason not doing it there tonight is the thought of going back and sitting in our in our nest up there in almost the same spot that I was standing when the game ended. It's a little too soon for me anyways, and probably for Mike too. For him, he's got to work there, so he's got to walk through there and he's got to see all that. But yeah, so a few different reasons for not doing it from there. We'll get back there. It's a process, shut up. Usual spiel to start off. Just a couple things quick. If you're tuning in on Facebook or Twitter, please do not forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe all the Green Legion social media pages. If those services are where you're comfortable, obviously we totally get it. But the YouTube channel is the best way to view, listen, and comment on any Green Legion Radio show. So please do us a solid, even if you're more comfortable on Facebook, on Twitter. Head on over to that YouTube page. Search the Green Legion. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that little bell next to it so you get a notification anytime a Green Legion Radio show goes live, and share that as well. Across all your social media platforms. If you cannot catch our shows live, you can always watch, listen later on any of the services we mentioned, but also on Spotify, Apple, pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. Before I get into my last thing here, we got, who else is in here? Keenan, how you doing, bud? First, I am soliciting the help of Samantha Ross. Sam, can you ask Mike to create some of the theme music for this damn podcast? Oh, geez. Thank you, Keenan. Michelle Gilmore, my lovely wife, says she's here. Thank you, darling. I appreciate it. Lou Mancini, 2002, last game at the vet. We all remember that one. I'll never let a loss consume me like that again. Hey, man, that's I give you a lot of props for that. This one hurts, obviously, and of course, as you know, we're going to get into that. I will tell you, this is probably the last show that will be all football for a while, anyways, because baseball is about to start up. We want to include basketball coming down the stretch. It's not like we're going to shut off football altogether. We're never going to do that. But, obviously this run has consumed everyone. So, and unfortunately now it's over and it's time to shift gears a bit. But the good news is, the wild offseason we're probably going to experience. So believe you me, the birds are always going to be at the forefront, at least on this show anyways. David Califoot, without missing the beat. Judge sucks. Appreciate it, bud. Joyce Russ, my mother's in the room saying she's here. How you doing, Mom? Anyways, the last little bullet before we get off and rolling here. I just want to give a final shout out for this season to what we have called and what we've been able to build as the Midwest Eagles Nest up there at the Back Porch Saloon. So I don't know if any one of our group there is actually on here watching, I know our good friend Kevin's still a little too hurt. I'm pretty sure Mike is still at work, and I don't know about the rest of the guys and girls. But for any and all of you who have been with us this year, seen the group grow, and been a big part of helping it grow, for Mike, for Angie, for Michelle, for myself as kind of your team parents, we can't thank all of you enough. I cannot remember a season, certainly since I'm been hanging out up there, that has been this much fun. And obviously the Birds winning had a tremendous amount to do with that. But you guys all brought it too. So, I put a post in our group, and I know some of you folks aren't in that group. We try to keep it specifically to the folks out here. But while a lot of you, have been, we're thanking Mike, myself, for putting the group together, and believe me, we are, grateful. It's really all of you that make this that makes that group so special. The energy you bring every week. It takes it takes some of the pressure off of me. Mike will get fired up too, but I'm pretty much the loudest guy in the room. He's got me running around with. You guys see me up there running around with the cowbell and trying to get everybody pumped up. And I know the season didn't end the way we wanted it to, but I heard from a lot of you that were like, "Man, I wish I knew about you guys sooner. I wish I would have met you guys years ago." Well, that didn't happen, but we can be a family now, okay? And that's as long as guys like Mike and myself and our wives are and the extended core that we've built along with that. As long as we're all a part of it, I can tell you that this is always going to be a family. All right. So we want you guys to know that you've always, you've got a home, of course, during football season, but I've been posting the last couple of days to, some ideas about things we can do during the off season, and even stuff coming up really soon to get together to make sure that we don't lose touch with folks. Right. So, you've got the family now. And like I said, the pleasure is truly all ours. And we thank you very much for your time all season long. Please, if any of you that are part of the group are watching, or if you watch later, make sure that you're paying attention to those posts in that group so that you can see what we're trying to plan and be a part of it with us. That's what we want. We want to keep people coming back. In years past, Mike and I have, we've had a few people, and then during the off season, it kind of just dissipates, right? People move away. Cincinnati's very transient. Hell, I moved away from here for 3 years. But that's kind of been the one area where we've made a mistake is not really trying to keep that group together. You're talking about once a month type of stuff, right? And next year I'll be here before you know it. Not to mention we've got what looks to be a wild and probably very fun off season with all of the Birds free agents and now coaching changes and whatnot. So keep coming back, keep paying attention, and we'll keep trying to make this as fun for you as we possibly can. As it grows, we're going to need help. Kevin, if you're listening, John, if you're listening, get ready, because as this group grows, we are going to need help getting people organized and stuff like that. And, for the Green Legion crew, another part of the way I looked at this group is every new person that we have at the Midwest Eagles Nest is a new potential customer for the Green Legion. It's a subscriber to the Green Legion social media. And it's another patron at the back porch. These are all good things, and we just want to keep growing that. So everybody get on board. And like I said, we'll keep trying to have a good time with this all through the off season. And we talked about Phillies at Reds in the middle of April. Happens to be the day before somebody's birthday. Hint, hint, will remain nameless. But anyways, let me jump back over to the room here. Lou Mancini giving my mom a nice shout out. Thank you very much for that, Lou. Appreciate it. David Califoot, group hug. Yeah, I think a lot of us could use it, bud. Group hug. And Mancini, again, I really wish Fangio was still available. And that's where I have a lot of animosity towards Gannon, as if I needed any more animosity towards Gannon. It's like, we could have probably tried to make a play there for Fangio, but Gannon told all of us he wasn't going anywhere. So here we are. Which, perfect transition, Lou. Excellent job. We're going to start it off with the boner of the week. Kind of ease into this painful evening here. The boner of the week. I don't think any of you should be at all shocked. I think if I asked 100 of you who the boner of the week should be, I think you'd all answer the same way. All right? So I'll give you guys a minute or two to give your guesses. Only the first one counts. I mean, can it be anyone else but Gannon? Seriously. So one thing I forgot to do here, just give me a second, guys, is I'm going to go ahead and, as promised, we're going to post this so that people can join if they want to. Excuse me. Anyways, boner of the week, it's Gannon, right? It has to be. Do we need to go through why? I mean, could we start with the on and off, frustration throughout the year? For some people, it stayed on all year long. It didn't stay on all year long for me because I thought there were times when he actually looked like he was, competent. But let's look at the biggest reason why he would be the boner of this week. The Kansas City Chiefs had 4 possessions in the second half of the game. And for all of you who are still struggling, believe you me, I'm not having an easy time reading any of this or saying it to you. So if this is hard for you, cover your ears. 4 Chiefs second half possessions. They went touchdown, 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 game-winning field goal. You figure out a way to stop that team one time, and the people in Philadelphia are climbing the friggin' poles again. One time. Right? Somebody's stopping them from eating horse shit. Instead, the vanilla play calling continues. No adjustments made at halftime. And the defense gets lit up like a Christmas tree, beaten like a rented mule, or however the hell way you want to describe it. Get destroyed. The adjustments made by Reed and his staff, on the other hand, miles and miles and miles ahead of Gannon's vanilla play calling. And despite the offense putting up 35 points and having a 10-point lead at halftime, we lose the damn game. So Jonathan Gannon, you, sir, are the boner of the week. And I use that sir thing pretty loosely. You can go ahead and have yourself a satchel of Frosted Richards, okay? And have fun trying to coach that knucklehead quarterback you got out there in Arizona now, right? Mr. I can't reach the Crispix that only wants to play Warzone or Call of Duty or whatever. Enjoy yourself, bub. Yeah. Nice hire, Arizona. Hope you enjoy that. That's your boner of the week. Keenan Harmon. Is it Mr. Well, it worked last week? How about Mr. Well, it worked first half? Let's not act like the first half. Dude, the first half, the Eagles' defense only allowed them to score 7 points. That's it. 7 points in the first half. I mean, come on. And in the second half, you get lit up like a Christmas tree because you decide not to adjust. 305 Sports Babe, Ashley's in the room. We were cheering for you guys on the positive. We look forward to coming up there next season. Yeah. Actually, I'm reaching for positives tonight. It's a tough week. Lou Mancini, the Hurts fumble stung, but that second half defense was atrocious. I nominate him for boner of the year. Right now, he would be the boner of the year, but the year's still young. So let's keep Gannon in mind for sure, especially as he goes into Arizona and I'm sure has a very hard time, in particular, dealing with that That little knucklehead quarterback of his. Yeah, I just disgusted with the defense. Lou, we're going to talk about the Hurts fumble here in just a minute. So, I heard my opening spiel. We've done the boner of the week. Now, unfortunately, folks, we're going to have to get to the game here. So, this is going to be painful, just as painful for me as it is for all of you. As Keenan just posted here, Big Red crapped all over us in the second half. There is no doubt about it. So, to the game. And I do want to start on something positive, right? Jalen Hurts proved to the world that he is that guy. I get it, the fumble. Look, I understand. We're going to get to that in a minute. However, 307 yards and a touchdown through the air, 70 yards on the ground, and 3 rushing touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Okay? We talked about some of this last week, and we said that, if Hurts doesn't miss those 2 games against Dallas and New Orleans, not only are we likely to win those 2 games, putting him at 16-1 in a regular, putting us at 16-1 in a regular season, but you're likely talking about a guy who would have had around 4,000 yards passing, 850 to 900 yards rushing, and somewhere around 40 total touchdowns. So, look, Patrick Mahomes is the league MVP. There's not much to argue about there. Once Jalen got hurt, that kind of went out the window. But if Jalen doesn't get hurt, Mahomes is not the slam dunk MVP. He's just not. Not with the numbers that Hurts would have put up. Likely would have put up. It's fun to speculate, but I don't think if you looked at what he actually did during the regular season and then add those 2 games back in, what I just told you guys is not a stretch. I mean, you can make the argument some of it might be modest thinking. So, and then you got the fumble. Okay. I mean, this kid's an absolute stud. And look, we're going to have to pay up, right? That's what's going to happen this offseason. I saw Captain Demps earlier today talking about, Jalen. It's not Jalen's responsibility to take less. We can banter back and forth on that. I don't totally disagree with that. I think Jalen should go after whatever he wants. I agree with Diaz on that. Jalen should go after whatever he wants. But I think a lot of things factor into that decision. What do you really want, right? Do you want to just be paid as one of the highest guys in the league? The Aaron Rodgers approach. You can do that, and the Eagles are going to have to pay it. Or do you want to be near that group, but not quite at the top as far as money, and still have cap space to keep a team around you because winning is important to you too? And I get what Captain Demps is saying. I'm not burying him here. It is Howie's job to figure out how to construct the roster and draft and everything, but it becomes more difficult when you have one player taking up an enormous amount of your cap space. This isn't baseball where you can just spend as much as you want. There is a cap. So, it's gonna depend on what does Jalen want. Eagles are gonna pay it regardless. It's gonna come down to what he wants, and he should go after whatever he wants. I'm not gonna ever fault a player for trying to make as much money as possible during his playing career. These careers are short. For a starting quarterback, there's only 32 of those jobs on the planet. Somebody's always coming after you trying to take that job. Somebody's always trying to, draft the next guy to push you or whatever. So I'm never going to fault a player, especially a quarterback, for trying to get his. You just hope that in getting his, he also takes into account what it takes to construct a roster and the fact that there needs to be some money available there to do that with. That's all it comes down to. Look, Cincinnati's going to be in the same boat with Joe Burrow this offseason. Same thing. So, be interesting to see where those two shake out. The fumble turn scoop and score, terrible. It was terrible. But if you think So I don't know about any of you, but my opinion of that, from what we've seen from Jalen Hurts so far, this kid carries that chip on his shoulder from when he was at Alabama and had to, watch Tua relieve him in the second half and go on and win a national championship. That's still a chip on his shoulder. That's why the kid's work ethic is so strong. That's why, it's why he dives in, and he's a very smart young man. If you guys think for a second that this kid isn't going to carry around that fumble and this loss all off season long, and that already strong work ethic isn't going to kick into some kind of hyperdrive, you've not been paying attention. He could come back next year squatting 800 pounds. He is a tireless worker and a smart young man, and he is going to come back pissed off after this. That's my opinion anyways. What do we got over here? Ashley says, Jalen over Tua big time. He's the real deal. Hey, look, Ash, I don't want to bury Tua. He was having himself a fine season. The problem with Tua, so, and we did this a few times on this show, the comparisons between the two, because they're always going to be linked together due to that, situation at Alabama. The two of them both had really two major question marks about them coming into the league, right? For Tua, it was arm strength and his ability to stay healthy. For Jalen, it was arm strength and accuracy. Accuracy was never Tua's problem. 3 of those 4 things got answered this year. The only one that didn't get answered, well, I can tell you all 4 got answered, but the only one that didn't get corrected or moved in a positive direction was Tua's ability to stay healthy. And my personal opinion, Ash, Lou and I and Chris have talked about this via text. I don't know if I've come on your show and talked about it, but I know I've talked about it here. I think Tua should retire for his own well-being. That last concussion he got, look, I'm not trying to say that any hit in the NFL is weak, because let's face it, these guys are all, superhumans, for crying out loud. So every hit is going to hurt. Every crash into the ground is going to hurt. But at this point, it's not taking nearly as much to rattle his brain anymore. He suffered, that last concussion he suffered was not on a hit that you would expect to see a concussion be suffered on. At least not one that lingered for as long as it did. I believe that if he continues like this, he's going to end up hurting his quality of life going forward. And I think that's what that kid needs to focus on. I can appreciate his family background. I've read a lot about his family, the work ethic, the, no quit. You're always going to go out there, all that, even when Tua went down, with the concussion, his brother, quarterback at Maryland, wanted to go to the hospital to see him. And their dad called the brother and said, no, go play your game. This was some serious shit, but that's the way that, and I respect the hell out of it. But Tua's a very young man, and to risk the quality of life for the rest of your life at this point in your life, I just hope that he's truly talking to everyone around him that cares about him, listening to impartial doctors, and really makes a sound decision for himself, not for the Dolphins, not for the NFL, not for he's young. He can still step into a booth. He can still be part of football. I just don't believe he should play football anymore. That's where I'm at with Jalen. David Califoot. I knew, the Jalen fumble. So did I, and we're going to get to that. That's next, buddy. Lou Mancini, that's going to be hard to overcome if he gets $50 million a year, and that's not to mention 7 defensive starters entering free agency. It's actually more than that, technically. But Lou, keep in mind that that Patrick Mahomes signed a 10-year, $500 million contract that they almost immediately restructured so that it didn't hurt the yearly cap as much. I believe Jalen can get every cent that he wants, and that there can be a way to structure a contract so that the team is still able to be able to construct a winner. Califoot agrees with you. Chiefs defender had a handful of Hurts face mask during that fumble. If you watch it from another direction, it doesn't look like it was as bad. But we're going to talk refs here in a few too. Briefly. And I urge all of you, don't push it on the refs tonight. All right? Please. One of the reasons why I'm not up at the back porch, I will tell you right now, is because for the last 3 days, I've seen a lot of Eagles fans blaming the loss on the refs. The same Eagles fans who called out the 49ers, the Bengals, and whoever else when those groups were blaming their losses on refs. We're not going to be hypocrites. We're better than that. All right? Please hold to that, or I may come unhinged. Now, to the Jalen Hurts fumble. Look, the defense was the number one reason why we lost the game, the second half defense. But that Jalen fumble, so we took a 10-point lead after that happened and took that lead into halftime, which is why the defense in the second half is the number one reason for the loss. But if you look at when that Jalen Hurts fumble happened and the scoop and score happened on that play, we're driving. And about to. So at the start of all these big games, right, everybody's overhyped. Everybody's at 1,000 miles an hour. And then after a few minutes, it starts to cool down, right? The cool down had happened. And what I saw anyways was the Eagles beginning to completely take over that game because we were winning the trenches on both sides. We were pushing them around on offense. And while we weren't getting in Mahomes' face as much as you'd like, we were limiting their ability on defense. And if Jalen doesn't fumble that, and it doesn't turn into that scoop and score, and we happen to go down and score, stop them again, and get a field goal or something out of it, I mean, you're talking about the possibility of going into that halftime up, 17, 20 points. And then what happens is you make the Chiefs completely one-dimensional. Instead, the scoop and score happens, and, to Chris Sack's point, and he's absolutely right, we went up 10 after that. So there's no excuse for the defense. I'm not making an excuse for the defense. And I'm not blaming the loss entirely on the Jalen fumble. What I'm saying is it allowed the Chiefs to stay within striking distance, and it did not force them to abandon their run game, which Pacheco ate us for breakfast in the second half. So while the fumble and scoop and score is not the biggest reason for the loss, it hurt our ability to be able to take over the game at a point when we were on the verge of doing so. That's how I feel about it. Be that as it may, Jalen Hurts was still, apart from that one play, Jalen Hurts was absolutely incredible in that game. All right? And he is going to come back even stronger next year. There's not a doubt in my mind. I believe very much in this kid, in his work ethic, in his intelligence, in his intensity, in his leadership, how the team responds to him. He's the real deal. And anybody who says otherwise not only doesn't know football, they don't know their ass from a hole in the wall. Okay? What do we got over here before we move on to our next topic? Keenan, the refs didn't help, but bottom line, second half D was non existent. Exactly. That's exactly the standpoint. Thank you for not being, it's one of the reasons why I love you guys, because you're honest too. You're not just these Johnny come lately chucklehead people. Keenan, can someone tell me what the docs gave Mahomes at halftime? I need that in my life. Look, I believe that he was drugged up to start the game. I think we all know that, right? It's a high ankle sprain, and on the inside, this is not something that just heals in a few weeks. All right, he was obviously still having effects from it, but it looked like on that play that it just kind of got tweaked, and so the initial pain gave you the and it gave us like, is he going to be out of the game? And then it didn't happen. Now they could have doped him up again. It happens, guys. This is football. These guys do it all the time. I'm not getting into that. I know there was that fake post on Monday about, there's an investigation into PED use. Look, we got beat, and there's no excuse for it. Now, we are going to cover the referees here real quick before we get to the real debacle. I want you all to listen to me, okay? I 100% recognize that they missed the face mask on the scoop and score. I don't think it was as egregious as that one camera angle looks, but it still appeared to happen. So, they missed it. I also 100% recognize that the holding call on Bradbury, while by letter of the law, it's a hold, and kudos to Bradbury for just owning it, right? That doesn't happen all that often. A lot of these guys come out and complain. He fell right on the sword. It was definitely less obvious of a hold than you could have called on some others throughout the game. And you threw that flag at a time when you really shouldn't, unless it's something very egregious. And that really wasn't. However, the refs are not why we learn. And anyone who is watching now, watching later, whatever, the refs are not why we lost this game. And I do not want to see any of my fellow Birds fans out there behaving like the Bengals and the Niners had been behaving during the 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl. That's all we heard out here in Cincinnati was all this bitter nonsense about refs. All the 49ers coming out talking about how, the Eagles are frauds and all this crap. Bullshit. Yeah, you got beat. That's what happened. And that's what happened to us on Sunday night. I called out those Bengal fans. I called out those Niner fans. I've called out fans of different teams that have said, they're close to the game. No. Anyone who tries to blame the loss on officiating, unless your team plays a perfect game, there is no excuse. And I will call out Birds fans too. If you don't play a perfect game, don't bitch. You leave the game, you leave yourself open for the Zebras to make a mistake. You allowed that to happen. Take care of your business. However, does the NFL need to address the officiating situation? Of course they do. We talked this some last week, but we can go over it again. Look, the league needs to hire these referees full-time. Okay? And I don't want to hear that it's not in their budget or whatever other dumb shit they want to use as an excuse. The NFL prints its own money for the most part. Okay? If you can't figure out a way to budget for full-time referees, I don't know what you're doing with all this money. Hire them. Make it so that they don't have to work other jobs during the offseason. Offer them benefits that make it worth it. What you'll do with that is you should, anyways, in theory, rectify one of the bigger issues that I see. And this is not a knock on what some of these guys are able to do running up and down the field. But this game is bigger, stronger, and in particular, faster than it's ever been. And you've got refs out there that are, let's just say, more seasoned than some of us, okay? You need to get younger. And you're not going to do that by 1099ing these guys and making them go find jobs in the offseason. You're not going to do that by 1099ing these guys and having them go have to, work other jobs just for medical benefits. You fix some of that. Again, in theory, you would fix some of that by offering them full-time employment. Right? Get younger. The benefits should cure some of this. Again, not knocking what some of these guys do at their age. I mean, Lord knows, I couldn't run up and down the field like these guys. Some of these guys are 50-something, 60 years old. Like, much better shape than I could ever hope to be in. It's impressive. But the game moves too fast for them. You need people who are with younger eyes, man. It just is what it is. Takes a younger person, in my opinion. Another big portion. This is something we touched on last week too, and I'm going to jump back to the room here to get your opinions here in just a second. We're also going to post this back up in case anybody wants to click on that. Evaluate the referees as a crew, not just as individuals. So what's happening is each individual ref is being evaluated, and the best refs get the playoff games and the Super Bowl and all of that happy shit. Well, the problem is when you do that, you're breaking up the crews. So it's a team. It's like anything else. You learn to rely on each other. And when you break up the crews, you weaken the overall ability of the, the makeshift crew that you've assembled. They don't know each other. They haven't worked with each other as much. They don't trust each other as much. Evaluate the crews overall, right? Hire them on as full-time employees. Appoint crew chiefs. Evaluate the crews as a whole, which would fall on the crew chief, and let the crew chiefs evaluate their squad. That's how you fix some of this. And then the crews, the best crews, get these important games. Now, I'm not trying to tell you that all of this fixes everything. I'm just telling you, I believe these are steps that the NFL needs to take to start moving the officiating in the right direction. Because I can sit here all day long and tell you that, the refs didn't cost anyone a playoff game this year. And it's true. The refs did not. But there was some pretty poor officiating going on in this playoffs. Now, some of it I also believe is there are more camera angles than we've ever had in our lifetimes. I mean, hell, there's 3 in every pylon. You got pylons at the first down markers now. I mean, there's cameras everywhere. So you're seeing a lot more of it too. I believe there's always been piss poor calls. We're just seeing it a lot more now because it's just more accessible. And they slow everything down to, kind of like this. Come on, guys. You got to give these guys a little bit of a break. I'm talking to my friend David Conant before the show tonight, and he brought that up about how much they slow it down to get the right call. Look, man, you slow that thing down enough, you're gonna see some shit that you wouldn't normally see. So that's where we're at with that. Jason, I'm not sure who this is. Jason, identify yourself. I've got someone backstage here, and I'm not quite sure who that is. So we're going to add you to the stream here. Identify yourself. Yep, and he's gone. Oh, well. So tried to take him off mute, and it didn't work. So he's gone. Anyways, that's where I'm at with the officiating. Sorry for the hiccup there, guys. And I think that helps. I don't think it cures everything, but I certainly think it helps. So I'd like to see the NFL start moving to doing some of that. Sorry, text message from work. Getting distracted all over the place. But anyways, let's move on from the refs because they're not the reason why we lost. Now we're going to get to the real heartbreaking reason for the loss. Lou Mancini, Jason was insightful. Yes. I mean, I'm sorry I couldn't get him on here. If he was trying to come in, I pulled him up and tried to take him off mute, and then all of a sudden he disappeared. So, I feel bad there, but if you're still listening, buddy, you can still see the link there. If you want to click on it again and give it another shot, let me know, or just go ahead and click on it, and we'll give another try. The real reason for the loss. Yeah, so here's David Conant, right? Last thing on the officiating here and the reviews. Like I told you earlier, David Connick, like I told you earlier, 2-minute review period. If you can't decide in 2 minutes, leave the call on the field. And I agree. Who is our best? Where do you get for your information from? Hey, but a lot of my, just stuff I read and then speculation and what my opinion is. That's kind of how I feel about the officiating, but the real reason for the heartbreaking loss on Sunday night, it's the defense, right? We gave our boner of the week. The unhappy Gilmore boner of the week went to Jonathan Gannon, who thankfully for all of us is no longer employed by the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to have to give Big Red, the colossal slob, and his staff a lot of credit for all the adjustments they made at halftime. It sucks to give him that credit, but here we are. Side note, like I said before, last week I warned everybody about Pacheco, and here we are in the second half. For the game, just 76 yards and a rushing touchdown, but he had, he was a huge impact in the second half of that game. He's not an incredibly big guy, but he runs ridiculously angry. Like he's trying to run through a brick wall. Now, I don't know how long you can sustain that in the NFL. But he certainly looks like he's willing to try like hell to continue running through brick walls. Anyways, this defense allowed the Chiefs to score just 7 points in the first half. 7. That's it. When the other touchdown in the first half was the scoop and score, right? And I get it. They missed a field goal. Butker climbed one off the upright. I got it. But you still, 7 points allowed to that offense. And then you come out in the second half and you just get absolutely shredded up and down the field. It was horrible to watch. Did you guys watch the Giants versus Vikings game? The playoff game? Not the regular season one. The playoff game where the Giants basically just had their way with the Vikings. That's what the second half of our game looked like. Not only were the Chiefs just moving the ball at will, when you watch these completions that Mahomes was making, there was nobody around. Nobody else in the screen. You don't even somewhere between 5 and 10 yards. Where the frig was everyone? Oh, that's right. The offensive play calling from the Chiefs was, just light years ahead of whatever Gannon was trying to dial up on the defensive side. The Chiefs scored on all 4 of their second half possessions, going touchdown, 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 and game-winning field goal while gaining 221 yards in the second half. It's piss poor. The first half, 7 points scored, 128 yards. I forget who it was earlier, tale of two halves. I can't remember the last time that defense looked up. I mean, I guess maybe the Green Bay game, we looked pretty bad defensively. The second Dallas game, we looked pretty bad defensively. The loss to Washington, we looked pretty bad defensively. But my God, I mean, look, and it's the Chiefs. I understand it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Andy Reid, it's Eric Bieniemy. Look, I don't want to take anything away from what they did and, the adjustments that they made. What we're really trying to do here is just the adjustments that weren't made by Gannon, by the coaching staff on the Eagles side. Like, it really appeared to me like he just came out in the second half and was just calling the same defensive stuff he was calling in the first half. Oh, it worked for the first 30 minutes. Maybe it'll work for the second 30. And he got lit up all up and down the field, and then still didn't change anything. And then he tries to send the house near the goal line and leaves that little shit wide open on the, for that last. It was just ugly up and down in that second half. And then of course, to add salt to the wound, you get the ticky-tack holding call on Bradbury. I get it. Again, like we talked about, not the reason for the loss, but that shit didn't help. It was salt in the wound. I mean, the bitch there, and rightfully so, is they were gonna kick the field goal, right? And they probably would have gotten it. You can't imagine that he's gonna that Butker's gonna miss another one. So, but when that holding call happens, it allows them to take all the time off the clock. And at that point, we just had no chance to come back down and tie the game or try to win the game, whatever. And that was frustrating. Our best. What scholars do you follow? Lou Mancini's got it right. The mighty Quimby is his scholar. Galliford says, salute Quimby. Yes. Our Bass there, I'm not really sure what you're trying to get at, but what scholars do I follow? David Conant's a Rhodes Scholar. There you go. And Quimby's our resident scholar and boss. So there you have it. No, look, I read a lot. I trust my eyes on what I see on the field. I watch a lot of football, man, and not just Eagles. I watch a lot of football, and the officiating. I think that's still what you're getting at here was my spiel about the officiating. That is literally what I'm seeing with my own eyes, and things that I've talked about with other folks who also watch a lot of football. Folks who get paid to discuss a lot of football. And in some instances, folks who used to play professional football. And a lot of them kind of share the same sentiments that I do. So I feel like I'm on kind of the right track there. Take it for what it is. It's I've always been able to kind of just trust my eyes, and it tends to agree with what most of your experts, former players, or whoever would also agree with. Keenan Harmon, where is Quimby? Hope he's okay. I'm sure we'll get some sort of sunset pictures or whatever from him at some point this week. Knowing him. But yeah, guys, that's the defense, right? I mean, that pretty much sums it up. They were atrocious all second half. Again, 221 yards and 24 points. On the other side, look, the offense did its job. Okay. When you come into the game with a defense that had been that good all year long, including the playoffs, keep in mind, we outscored our two playoff opponents coming into that game, the Giants and the Niners. We outscored them 69-14 going into that damn Super Bowl. So this defense, outside of a couple of games there, was really, really good all year. And when you come into that game with a defense having been that good, and your offense hangs 35 on the other team, guys, you've got to win that football game. There's just no excuse for it. We talked about Jalen already. He was absolutely amazing. The run game, though, aside from Jalen, not so much. I don't know if anybody else watched that, but, Sanders, Gainwell, and Scott combined for just 17 carries for 45 yards and no touchdowns. Now, the touchdowns, look, Jalen carried the ball on the goal line. That could have gone to Scott. It could have gone to Gainwell. It could have gone to Sanders. But combined 17 carries for 45 yards was a little surprising. We talked about the Jalen fumble. Came at a time when I thought we were really about to kind of just, rip their soul right out of them. Understanding that we still took the 10-point lead. We were driving. That hurt. That's the one mistake, right? But, if we want to have a little bit more frustrating shit before we start to wind down the show tonight. Overall, first downs, Birds 25, Chiefs 21. Total yards, Birds 417, Chiefs 340. 221 of that Chiefs came in the second half. Third down conversions, Birds 11 of 18. Chiefs 4 of 8. We Birds also went 2 for 2 on fourth down while they didn't attempt any of it. David Conant says absolutely zero running game. Absolutely agreed. But outside of Jalen carrying the ball, we only attempted 17 handoffs. 10-point lead. You might want to pound the rock. Again, I'm not going to. The Chiefs did a wonderful job in the second half, and fuck them. Time of possession. This is the one that really hurts. Birds had the ball for 35 minutes, 47 seconds. Chiefs, 24 minutes, 13 seconds. Across the board, guys, we should have won that game. A lot of people want to look at the Jalen fumble. You lost by 3. That was a 7-point swing. It's fair. But, I could respond with the kid also put up 4 touchdowns, 1 through the air and 3 on the ground. To me, it's defense, the Jalen fumble, and that's really it, man. There's no other way to really look at that. You could maybe throw in the lack of a solid running attack, solid rush attack for us, which was surprising. But this is also an Eagles team that, including the playoffs, came in at plus 12 turnover differential. We forced no turnovers. This is an Eagles defense that had 78 sacks in 19 games coming in. Didn't get to Mahomes, not a one-time. 5 quarterback hits. That's it to show for the night. The Chiefs on the turnover differential for the year, for the regular season, they were -3. They were +3 in the playoffs, so just a flatline 0 overall. Again, we didn't force a turnover, and we coughed one up that cost us 7 points. So now we see what happens, right? This offseason. It was an amazing season. It really was. I mentioned at the start of the show when we talked about the Midwest Eagles nest. And I was going to hang the banner up that I got to take home from there. It's kind of sitting over there. I was going to hang it up behind me tonight, but with the closet door and the door there, I didn't really know how I was going to do it. We'll try to figure something out going forward. But it really was an amazing season. But we got beat in the final 30 minutes. And in doing so, unfortunately, guys and girls, became just the second team ever to blow a double-digit lead at halftime. The other one, Super Bowl 51, which is your 28-3 game. Right, Patriots and then New England and Atlanta. Thankfully, we avoided that level of embarrassment. But to be only the second team to blow a double-digit lead at halftime, it stinks. It hurts bad. We had the game won and blew it. So again, now we see what happens, right? For starters, you got to replace both coordinators. Obviously, none of us are brokenhearted about Gannon being gone, right? He's the boner of the week. He's the GOAT of the Super Bowl. I don't want to say he did nothing good. The team did have a pretty good defensive season. But, he had a real chance in that Super Bowl to shut everyone up. Because a lot of the critics and everything, and even a lot of us, myself included at times, it was, is Gannon really that good? Or is it a lot to do with the talent on the defense? Gannon got outcoached really, really bad on Sunday night. So, and then he walks into this job in Arizona, and did you see his little hype video? Like it was almost like somebody from Lambda becoming a head coach and trying to give a hype video. Like, okay, dude, got it. Good luck with Kyler Murray, Holmes. Let me know how that works out for you. He ain't Jalen Hurts. So have fun. Who's over here? Keenan Harmon. You got to pressure the hell out of Mahomes or you see what happens. Agreed. To go along with that, the Chiefs did a really good job of controlling Hassan Reddick. Whereas the Shanahan game plan when the 49ers game was to try to block him with a backup tight end. The Chiefs made an obvious commitment to knock him off of his rush. And him being a speed rusher, it doesn't have, he's not just going to bowl through a lot of that. So, again, credit to them. Lou Mancini, as much as this hurts, 30 other teams wish they played in that game. Very, very true. David Conant backs it up, saying he wishes his Niners were there. Absolutely. Keenan Harmon, obviously it was the talent. Gannon sucks. Well, he's gone, bud, so we don't have to worry about him anymore. David, side note, Joe Montana is my all-time favorite. Well, there you go. David Conant, one more time before we close the show here. Adam, I know you've heard this before. I think I'll be wrong saying that Hurts was the best quarterback in that draft. I'm not going to be as far off as people thought. No, look, between his work ethic, his intelligence, and his God-given athletic ability, he's proving himself to be proven himself, at least through this year, to be one of the top quarterbacks in the league. So now, like I said, we see what happens, right? Gannon's gone, so the search for a defensive coordinator comes up. Would have been nice to have Fangio. He's unfortunately in Miami now. Congrats, Ash and Lou. Steichen leaving. I like the things that we did on offense this year. If you want my opinion on this, and though it's early, I think Brian Johnson should be the guy there. He's the quarterback coach. Incredible. He's got a really strong relationship with Jalen Hurts, and let's face it, in today's NFL, the relationship with the quarterback at that position is obviously of the utmost importance. However, if they're going to go that route, I would say they probably need to hurry up and do it, or Johnson may run off to Arizona with Gannon. Right? And then if Johnson isn't the choice, I guess we just kind of wait and see. Replacing the defensive coordinator, and his name escapes me. I told myself I wasn't going to forget it, and I forgot it anyways. It's our defensive line coach. Defensive line or defensive back. I know all three positions, right? So all three levels. Defensive line, linebackers, and defensive line coach, linebacker coach, and defensive backfield coach are all going to be strong contenders for this position. Just look at some of their performances. The talent obviously showed through this year, but another thing we could knock on Gannon is maybe the guys coaching under deserved a bit more of the credit. Gannon's calling the defensive plays, but these guys are coaching the defense, directly coaching the defensive players in the specific position groups. And you had Hassan Reddick with a career year. You had Bradbury bounce back. You had Gardner Johnson have a huge year. Kazir White performed. Hell, TJ Edwards had an enormous season. 4 or 5 guys with with 10 sacks. So I think it's those 3 guys have to be considered at bare minimum. And again, I forgot to write down their names because this week's been just as bad for me as it has for you guys, right? I wasn't going to bail on the show. I enjoy coming on here. This is fun for me. I love talking to all of you. You know that. The other part of this whole thing is the free agents. I mean, my God, just defensive loan. Does Graham retire? Fletcher Cox probably gone. Javon Hargrave. I think I would bring Hargrave back if I could get him to sign something a little bit more team friendly. Bradbury, I think, has to be a priority. Gardner Johnson, I think, has to be a priority. I agree very much with what Quimby said. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, that keeping Slay, Bradbury, and Gardner Johnson together, I think, has to be a thing. Coverage sacks, I think, were a big deal this year. Kazir White, he's probably gone. TJ Edwards, big bummer, but he's probably out. Epps, who, Sue, Joseph, and Quinn, I got to believe, are all gone. Russ Taylor says, we need coordinators. We need to figure out who is staying and retiring and who wants and can restructure, and then we need to figure out the draft. Agreed. What I can tell you is the Bradbury thing might be a little shaky because you have a draft this year that is very deep at the corner position. I still think I would make Bradbury and Gardner Johnson priorities. and I would still draft a corner somewhere in the draft. Darius Slay's 32 years old. And while he was still good, I think you saw, a guy who is starting to get a little bit past his prime as the season went on. The slot corner position. Love Avonte Maddox, but your most valuable attribute is your availability. Guy gets hurt a lot. And I'm sorry, but Josiah Scott is just flat out not the answer at that position. I would love him to be. He's from right here in Fairfield, Ohio, but he's just not. Go over to the offensive side. Kelsey says he doesn't want to talk about it yet. Okay. Kelsey's earned that right, of course. Samalu, I mean, look, I'd love to keep this offensive line together. Andre Dillard, bye, bitch. Out you go. See you later. Big pudding. Not enough of you. Miles Sanders is likely gone. He's going to want a payday. And the Birds, we talked about this during the offseason last year on Right On Cue and on this show. And I know the guys talked about it on Green Legion Radio, on the flagship show. The Birds just don't put that type of value on the running back position. They value a specific body type and a specific type of skill set that they feel they can just plug and play. So Miles Sanders wanting a big contract, not going to happen in Philly, dude. Gardner Minshew, adios, Uncle Rico. Look, I like the guy. I think he's probably a serviceable backup somewhere, if not a very low-end starter somewhere. But he doesn't work for us. And, I understand his stat line ended up looking okay against Dallas. But if you really watched that whole game, there were a number of passes that probably should have been intercepted that weren't. And a few others where, a Dallas Goedert and a Devontae Smith are bailing him out of bad throws. And then you take the Saints game, and he was freaking terrible. Now, I'm not saying you got to have two starting quarterbacks, but what you do need to have is someone in that backup role who can come into the offense, and the scheme of the offense doesn't have to be completely overhauled. And what I mean by that is something we talked about here on this show a few times during that stretch where Minshew was starting. The RPO, which is a massive part of our offense, and I believe still will be, just regardless of who the offensive coordinator ends up being. The RPO, when Jalen does it, the defense does not know who's going to take the ball, and they have to account for both. The RPO, when Minshew was trying to do it, Minshew's here. There is nobody here. It's nothing but green grass. Everyone's watching Miles Sanders or Kenny Gainwell or Boston Scott or whoever. They don't have to respect it. So the entire offensive scheme has to change when Minshew's on the field. I don't think that's good for the team. When you talk about blocking schemes and all of that, you want to make it as simple as possible. Like I said, I'm not asking for another Jalen Hurts as a backup quarterback, but let's get somebody who can move and at least manage that sort of offensive approach. The other thing we're going to have to address before we close out the show, Lane Johnson's going to have surgery if he hasn't had it already. He is going to be 33 years old this offseason, just completed his 10th year, and he has had some injury problems. So somewhere in this draft or somewhere, and because you're not assuming we're going to end up with another high pick again next year, right? We're fortunate this year that we had the capital to swap back and forth with the Saints, and we end up with the 10th overall pick and now the 30th overall pick. Would be 31st, but I think it's Miami that forfeits one, so everybody moves up one. You're going to have to look for a backup for Lane Johnson, and someone who can definitively step into that role, because I don't know how much he's got left either. And that's the best right tackle in football, bar none. Guy hasn't given up a sack in over 2 calendar years. So it's going to be, oh, Jesus. Let's try not to make too much bad noise there. Look, it's going to be another. You guys get ready. It's going to be another wild offseason. Remember last offseason, right? With the pick trade, and then the draft comes, and we move up. We grab Jordan Davis, and then we trade for AJ Brown, and then the offseason comes, and here comes Hassan Reddick. Here comes Kazir White. It was wild. I would expect the same type of thing to happen. Only now you're going to throw 2 new coordinators on top of it too. So I would get ready for a very wild offseason. Should be a lot of fun as a Birds fan. I know we're all hurting right now, guys and girls. And I'm right here hurting with you. There's nothing that I can say here that's going to make that stop, except to say that Jalen Hurts is the real deal. AJ Brown is the real deal. Devontae Smith is definitely the real deal too. And Goddard, we have a nice young core on that offensive side. Hassan Reddick is still under contract for 2 more years. I believe you will see the Birds bring back Gardner Johnson and Bradbury. At minimum, one of them's coming back. I think the defensive line stays very, very strong. We'll see what happens with Graham. Josh Sweat is still under contract. I would like to bring Hargrave back. Milton Williams had a good year. Jordan Davis should step up. Nakobe Dean should step up. Look, there's a lot to be optimistic about going into next year. I say that at the same time, I don't know that you look at a repeat of what you saw this season. And I don't know that you're looking at a Super Bowl appearance next year. Obviously, we'll talk more about that as the roster starts to take shape and coordinators are hired and whatnot. But just keep these few things in mind. Just that number of free agents, the 2 new coordinators, and as of right now, I believe I read and saw that based on the record, the opposing team's records from this year, the Eagles will face the toughest schedule in the league next year. So, it's a wait and see. But I would tell you to be optimistic, guys. Right now, it sucks. It's hard to think that way, but I think you got to look at the future as a positive thing. The right now hurts bad. The future looks very promising. So, guys and girls, I'm going to get out of here. I'm really impressed by how many of you hung with me. I started seeing the comments on my posts. I didn't think any of you were coming. And I'm like, you know what, man? I don't blame any of them. I really wouldn't have. It just would have been a really short show. So, Keenan, Lou Mancini, David Califoot, David Conant, Russ Taylor. Who else did we have in here? Art Bass, I don't know. I'm sorry I couldn't list a whole bunch of scholars off for you, bud. Yeah, for all of my usual suspects in here and for everyone else listening, Ashley, and I don't know if Lou is sitting there with you. Mom, thank you for stopping in. My lovely wife, thinking I wasn't going to have any support tonight. She decides to comment, and she never comments. Guys, girls, it has been my pleasure during this wild, fun ride of an NFL season to try to entertain you for an hour or so every week. And I'll continue to try to do so as we shift towards the off season. David Califoot wants to take one more shot at my Yankees here. 10 or so more days until baseball spring training. Let's go, Boston. Jeter is a bum. Everything in that sentence is absolutely fine. And until you get to the end, and then you take all your intelligence out of it. I love you anyways, man. David, always great to hear from you. Keenan says he's going to call Sam tomorrow and get her to work on some theme music. Dude, the problem is I could play stuff, but we'll get dumped off of Facebook. And I end up with a lot of views on Facebook. And so I try not to get bumped off of there. But anyways, guys, girls, again, it's been a wild Eagles season, a fun Eagles season. It did not end the way we wanted it to. But let's look positive towards the offseason. Let's have some fun with baseball season. I'll continue to be here for you every week, every Wednesday, except for one. I think it's in April. We're going to move to a Friday night to accommodate a thing I have for my daughter. And that'll be another Friday unhappy hour where I'll be probably throwing a few back. So, everybody in the room, everybody listening, everybody watching, this has been the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. David Conant, I see your comment. Love you too, my brother. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you in the room, and I will talk to you next week. I don't think we have much in the way. Get ready for some baseball, but we are never going to stop talking football here. Y'all, take care. We love you here. And as always, go Birds. All right, y'all. Even I can't take it anymore. Take care. We love you. We'll talk to you soon.